I'm so happy to be joined by Maxime Bayland, creative director on Splinter Cell BLACKLIST. It's good to see you again.
Yes, nice seeing you.
Conviction was a massive overhaul of the franchise. What are kind of your goals going into BLACKLIST now that you've kind of gotten players used to a new and different way of playing Sam Fisher?
Well, I think for me, Conviction was like the beginning of a change and especially of expanding the range of what Sam can do and what the player can do. And I think BLACKLIST is that finale, if you want, right? So we've worked really hard on expanding what Sam can do, both on the stealth side and on the action side. Today we're showing 2 maps. We're showing a lot of new things that are really catering to the players that want to play more Ghost, like dragging dead bodies, throwing them in bins so that their friends don't find them, and you keep being a Ghost. So I think it's working well.
It's interesting. You kind of identify 3 types of play styles: Ghost,
get a little wet, you think you're gonna melt. It's slippery out here.
Panther, and Assault. I actually tend to lean towards the Panther, where I don't want to be seen, but I like to kill everyone to make sure they don't bother me again. How do you design a game to be able to appeal to all 3 of those playstyles equitably?
Well, it's hard, right? That's why we're trying to do it. I guess we like to suffer a little bit. But I think the first thing we're doing is we made sure that we had abilities for Sam that were supporting the 3 playstyles, and then the gadgets, same idea, right? So, we've got gadgets like the sleeping gas grenade, or, we've got a sticky shocker for the stealth player. We also have breaching charges if you want to play more assault, right? So it's making sure that the player has some action, some ways of expressing himself through the gameplay he wants. And then after that, it's creating the levels and the positions of the AI, so to make sure that regardless of how you play, it's fun, right? So if you want to really take your time, there's some good patrols. You can learn what they do. Today we're showing the goggles, and if you upgrade the goggles enough, you get footprint tracking. So now you can see like a little bit. Even if you don't see the guy, you can see where he's been. So that's interesting also.
Let's talk about the levels, because I got to play the 2, and they are very distinct from Conviction in that there's a sense of breadth to them, and the opportunities seem at least more apparent than they did in Conviction.
Well, I'm glad you noticed. I mean, it's definitely a goal for us to make the levels, wide enough that you can really, take your time, observe, find your own way, your own path that you want to explore, that you want to take. And again, it's supporting the different play styles, right? So we've got, like, the way we're making the levels, without going into the details too much, but, we've got a nice little cover setup that's allowing you to, if you want to do some cover and shoot, or if you want to do some cover to cover, a bit more Panther, you can. But we also have all around where you're going, all the stealth navigation, the pipes, all that, some vents. You didn't see vents today, but we got some vents in there also. And I think what's interesting is that with our economy system, we're going to be rewarding you regardless of how you play, right? So you're going to be able to explore and gain some money and upgrade Sam with that in mind. So I think it's going to be cool.
All right, I need options. Now would be good.
Also, there's a fair amount of the game, it seems, that takes place outside. One of the levels, outside during the day, excuse me. One of the levels we played definitely demonstrated that, and of course the demo back in E3. It seems almost contrary to both Sam Fisher and the concept of stealth when you have that much light. I mean, how do you sort of envision playing a stealth game when you're kind of out there in the desert sun?
Well, what we're doing is we kind of have 2 types of maps, right? Or nighttime maps and some daylight maps. And in the daylight, what happens is we're treating stealth a little bit differently, but it's still stealth, but it's stealth using occlusion, right? Hiding behind cover, hiding, out of line of sight, using objects so that people don't see you. So it's still stealth, it's a bit different. And also what we're doing is all our AI detection is still affected by if you're in the shadows or not, even if it's a daylight map. Now, obviously, the shadow of a daylight map, you're not going to be invisible, but the AI is going to see you a little bit less further than if you were completely exposed in the sunlight.
Sam also, he was already moving faster in Conviction. He seems to be even kind of speedier and snappier in this. Yet it's still a stealth game. I mean, how do you try to allow for that balance? I mean, I do think a few years back, stealth games became almost a bad word because it meant it would be a very, very slow game. You seem to really be dealing with that problem.
Well, I think actually I think that Sam is slower in Blacklist than he was in Conviction, but we've worked really hard to make him more fluid, and that's always been a pet peeve of mine on Conviction, where Sam was doing a lot of stop and go. So when you would see an enemy, you'd be behind him, and then you'd want to go to take him out. Like as soon as you you press X to take him down, Sam would stop, take the guy out, and then you would continue. So on Blacklist, we tried to make that more fluid. So Sam kind of goes through the guy. So he knocks him out or he flips him over, but he can continue. And same thing with Mark and Execute. Now Mark and Execute, you can do it in motion, right? So you're controlling it. If you want to stop, you can. But if you're keeping your thumbstick pressed, in the direction you want, Sam's going to execute targets while keeping the momentum. So I think it's interesting that you think that he's faster, where actually he's just more fluid in what he does.
Let's talk about this customization, because I think that was probably the most striking thing I noticed. We did have the advantage of having a little more money in our pocket than you probably would at this juncture of the game, but there's a lot that you can do with Sam. How dynamic is it, and how mindful does the player need to be of outfitting themselves in a particular way?
Well, I think it's a lot of us on the team we really like games where you progress and you customize your character and you spend points to become better and all that. So I think it made a lot of sense to do that in Blacklist. And I think, again, we're supporting our playstyles. So we're creating some armor parts that are more catered towards the stealth player, the ghost player. We're making some that are more towards the action player. And I think what's interesting is basically Sam's tactical suit. There's 4 sections, right? The torso, the legs, the gloves, and the boots. And you can mix and match different parts. So you can decide, I'm going to take something that allows me to carry more gadgets, right? Because I want to have more sleeping gas grenades, but I also want to make sure I'm not going to make noise when I active sprint. So then I'm going to take these boots that make me very silent. And so I think it's kind of interesting, because you can mix and match. You can go full stealth if you want. You can be a little bit stealth, but a little bit more protection for if the shit hits the fan, you can still take a bit of damage before you die. So it's really, you're playing Sam Fisher, but it's your Sam.
All right, well, August 20th, the game is coming out, PS3, 360, and PC. All right, well, I expect to see you again before then, but best of luck until those moments.
Thank you.
That is not all the Splinter Cell Blacklist that you have available to check out. We also have another interview, and of course, my impressions after playing just 2-3 hours of the game, sneaking in the shadows, making people have trouble breathing. Anyway, make sure you check it out, youtube.com/Rev3Games.